Testing, testing.
If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. Seeing none, stand for the pledge. Everyone, please turn off their phones if they haven't done so already. Karen, roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Becerra, Mr. Jones, Mr. Riggs,
Here.
Mr. Crowley, Mr. Gorgone,
Here.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Here.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Here.
Mrs. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Lundholm,
Here.
Mr. Badousis,
Here.
Mr. Crippen.
All right, we have 5 resolutions for approval. They're all dated 4/14/2026, all to Crown Castle Fiber LLC. First one is 315 Ocean Street, Block 1059, Lot 1. Second one is 707 Beach Avenue, Block 1062, Lot 7. The third is 6 Perry Street, Block 1028, Lot 1.02. The fourth one is 201 Beach Avenue, Block 1019, Lot 28. And the last one is 104 North Street, Block 1025, Lot 1. Anyone have any issues with those? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Deputy Mayor McDade motions, Mr. Lundholm seconds. Mr. Gorgone,
Abstain.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed,
Abstain.
Mr. Crowley,
Yes.
Mr. Lundholm,
Yes.
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mr. Badousis,
Abstain.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have minutes for approval of March 10, 2026. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Crowley motions, Deputy Mayor McDade seconds. Mr. Gorgone,
Abstain.
Councilmember Bodnar,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed,
Abstain.
Mr. Crowley, Mr. Lundholm,
Yes.
Mr. Riggs,
Yes.
Mr. Badousis,
Abstain.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, one application for this evening, Addis Inc., 1317 Beach Avenue, Block 1146, Lots 6 through 24. It's amended site plan, preliminary and final modification of condition variance relief, hardship, and substantial benefits.
Good evening, Chairman, Deputy Mayor, members of the board. My name is Keith Davis. I'm an attorney at Nemad Davis and Goldstein, and I'm here on behalf of Addis Inc. I'm joined by George Andy, who is the president of that corporate entity. They're the owner and operators of the existing Lemaire Beachfront Resort. We are here for 2 reasons. One, we're seeking an extension of a site plan that you approved back in 2023. That approval allowed for the construction, the demolition of the beach house, and in its place, the construction of a new building for conferences, weddings, and special events limited to 202 seats. Additionally, a second aspect of the approval is the demolition of 51 existing hotel units and replacing them with new modern hotel units on site. There's 162 hotel rooms existing, no increase. For 3 reasons, we're asking for the extension. First, we had to negotiate an encroachment agreement with the county. Still has not been completed yet. We're getting close to doing so. Secondly, there's been some changed economic circumstances, which Mr. Andy will testify to since 2023 in terms of interest rates and building costs. And third, this is probably the primary driver as to why we haven't commenced construction. There's an existing light and air easement that we contest as to its validity, but arguably benefits a property owner on the other side of New Jersey Avenue. We filed suit to extinguish that easement. That litigation is ongoing, and we just had a trial. Summations were just made to Judge Gibson here in the county, and we hopefully will have a decision soon, and we hope there won't be an appeal beyond that, but there may be. So that has caused delays as well. So we're asking for 3 one-year extensions. The approval runs through July 9 of this year, and we're asking that it be extended through July 9 of 2029. Secondly, when we were here the last time, we necessitated a parking variance, and we provided testimony from Mr. Andy, our traffic consultant, Mr. Shropshire, and our planner, Tiffany Morrissey, to justify that. And one of the things that we offered as the applicant was to limit events so that they would not take place in season from June 15 to Labor Day. I think for many of the same reasons, and Mr. Andy can testify to this better than I can, because of increased building costs, because of interest rates, which are providing an impediment toward economically building this event structure, a revenue stream is needed. And in-season events are needed in order to make this aspect of the project work. And we're thus asking for relief from that condition that was imposed in connection with the prior site plan approval from 2023. We think the parking supply that's on site still works. We've updated our parking analysis from the report that was supplied in 2023, and per Mr. Hurlis's request, I brought additional copies of that if any board members would like a copy. And we supplied a new report. We think it's justified. Because it arguably impacts the parking variance, we requested a new parking variance as part of this application. We've noticed for that. We've supplied proof of that notice to Ms. Keenan, so that's part of the record of the case. So those are the two issues. There's no new development. We're not changing what you approved in 2023 in terms of building area, number of hotel rooms. It's going to be the same lush landscaping plan that we presented 3 years ago. The only two reasons we're here, we're asking that you extend the approval for 3 years, and we're asking you to supply relief from the prior conditions so that the event space can be used year-round and doesn't have to go dark in the summer. So I have 3 witnesses, Mr. Andy, Mr. Shropshire, and Mrs. Morrissey, and with your permission, I'd like to have those 3 witnesses sworn in.
Sure, also swear in the board engineer. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You do?
Mr. Andy, I'd like to talk to you. Can you just confirm for the record what your role is with Addis Inc.?
Managing partner, president of Addis Inc.
And that entity is the owner of the real estate where the Lemaire Beachfront Resort is located, is that correct?
Yes.
And first, let's talk about the extension that we're requesting. Obviously, you haven't commenced construction of the project that was approved in 2023. Do you still have every intention of eventually doing so?
Yes.
Okay. First, I know the county approval has not yet been granted for the encroachment agreement, correct? Your engineer has been diligently working at supplying the plans and other information that the county's been requesting, and we're getting close to that being completed, correct?
It's been a slow go, but yes. Yeah.
Secondly, you are party to a lawsuit concerning a light and air easement that arguably burdens the property where the event space is slated to be constructed, correct?
That's correct.
And I know you spent a lot of time and energy in that litigation, and my partner, Mr. Kaufman, has been handling that through trial before Judge Gibson. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you've been a witness, you've testified in that litigation, correct?
Yes.
And trial has just recently summed up, and we're waiting for a decision from Judge Gibson as to the validity of that easement, correct?
That's correct.
Because of the existence of that easement, has that given you pause in terms of proceeding with the development? Because if that easement is valid, it would have a negative impact on your ability to construct the building, and if it's enforced, you may have to tear it down later, which you obviously don't want to do, correct?
Correct.
And has that caused delays in your ability to commence construction of the project?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk more so about what has happened since 2023 in terms of the economic conditions that you're now facing that maybe weren't as present in 2023 when the approval was granted. What's changed that has increased the cost of building the project?
I mean, you look at any soft cost, whether you're talking about architects, engineers, attorneys, everything's gone up. Hard costs, I mean, you look at everything from the furniture that we bring over to steel, concrete, all the inputs, they've gone way up. And you mentioned 23 is when we actually did the application. Well, the whole entire process starts way before that, too. So
Yeah.
when we penciled these numbers in, that environment does not exist as it stands today. It's pretty much doubled up. And that's just on the actual physical hard costs. And then you have interest rates. Obviously, that was a different environment back then as well. That compounds to the overall cost. So you get basically a double hit.
So, I haven't been saying 2023, the approval was granted in 2024, expires in July of this year. If the board were inclined, and we've requested 4 years total, one for the delay in getting the county approval, which would be 1 year if accommodated by the board, and then 3 years. Would that give you, do you believe, sufficient time to resolve the litigation, get the county approval done, and also, hopefully, enable you to assemble your financing in order to construct the project?
Yes, absolutely.
You're also seeking relief from a condition that we offered as part of the last site plan approval to limit event usage from June 15 to Labor Day, correct?
Yes.
What has changed? Why are you now asking the board to rescind that condition to allow you to operate the event space year-round?
Sure. I mean, we've had a lot of inbound since we announced we got the approvals back in 24. We had a lot of inbound requests from guests, and, once we made the announcement, a lot of guests come to us and say, hey, what about these dates? And, unfortunately, with this condition that we put on ourselves, we had to turn some business down and turn some requests. So basically, there was demand from guests for those dates that has generated this reason for us to come back.
And also, obviously, if you're able to be open for events in season, that would allow you to generate additional revenue. Would that give further justification to building the structure, even though you've got high interest rates and higher building and construction costs?
Yes.
One of the variances we're seeking is for parking, because by eliminating this condition, it arguably affects that parking variance that was previously granted by the board. You're familiar with your parking operation in season, out of season. If you were to have seasonal events with the hotel continuing to operate, what would that do to the existing parking supply? Would there be adequate parking provided on site?
Yes, I mean, the whole reason we put all these conditions are, one, we want to make sure it's just for our guests. So the guest that's going to be attending the event is going to be a guest that's going to be staying at the hotel. So it doesn't really impact the neighborhood. And the reason why, let me maybe just back up a little bit, the reason why we put this self-imposed condition is we've been, Craig can probably correct me if I'm wrong, we've been one of the applications that's been in front of the board many times over the years. We've heard numerous comments from the board, from the community. We understand the neighborhood. We're a commercial property adjoining a neighborhood that's adjacent. So we're very sensitive to all these things. So we kind of did a concerted effort to kind of, get ahead of that and address it. And that was the reason why we came up with this condition. But for all those reasons that we're mentioning right now, we kind of had a reverse course, so to speak, and just say, you know what, maybe we need to come back, and this would make this a little more viable of a operation or option to make the operations go.
Mr. Davis, your question that I wrote down was, he believes there will be adequate parking provided on-site. Is that what you meant to ask him?
Yeah, what did I say?
You said on-site, but I want to make sure his testimony is that there's sufficient parking with the events in the summer on-site.
Did you
Not
understand?
including off-site, on-site.
Did you understand that to be the question?
On-site, yeah.
Okay.
No.
One of the other conditions you agreed to, that we're not asking the board to disturb, was an obligation that anytime you do an event, you're going to obligate the booker, the person that's arranging for the event, to reserve up to 25% of the event guests as hotel rooms.
Yes.
So that people, as you just said, people that are going to be using the event space are also going to be, at least a portion of them are going to be required to stay on site. You're not seeking to disrupt that in any way, correct?
No, not modifying that at all.
And we supplied with the application an updated policy for Lemaire internally to adhere to that 25%, correct?
Yes.
And also a template event contract, which stipulates that there's an obligation to book up to 25% of the event guests in hotel rooms, correct?
Correct.
And that's going to remain undisturbed, and you understand that that's going to remain a condition of approval.
Understood, yes.
And in addition, do you believe by having the space be utilized for events year-round? Will that help support the tourist economy here in the city of Cape May?
No question.
That's all I have for Mr. Andy. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. You talked about 3 one-year extensions, but then you said another year. So is it 2030?
We would like to have 2030. I feel a little hampered and pressing for the one-year mandatory extension for the county approval because it did take a while for our professionals to supply it, but if the board is so inclined, we do not have that county approval as of yet. Mr. Andy and I have certainly been pressing for it, so if the board is inclined, we would like to have it extended to July of 2030.
So, and on the ROI, you talked about how this substantially changed. Is that from an ROI perspective financially in years? Or was it just, this is a go, no-go if we don't have this 3 to 4 month period?
Are you just saying in terms of like a, you know?
Yeah, I
as of
mean,
10
when you're
years or-
doing an investment, you're looking at your ROI and what is the period of time associated before you're going to see a break even.
Sure.
You know, is that, you know, has it gone from, I'm just making numbers up, sir.
Yeah.
4 years to 7 years, and that's looking a little not palatable from a business model, or is this a go, no-go?
No, it's definitely compressed, that's for sure.
Okay.
It's not, if it was a no-go, we wouldn't be here. That's
Okay,
for sure.
I just want to ask the question.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And the 25% booked rooms, this, you know, plays a factor in understanding the parking accommodation and what would be available. Are you going to restrict that it's only 1 car per room?
As Mr. Strawshire can attest, yes. I mean, we don't want to take outside events. We want to, you know, from the economic model, the rooms are where the money's
Yeah.
at. The event center boosts the rooms. So they go kind of hand in hand. So we don't want to take outside.
There are some, you know, accommodations throughout the country where it tells you you have 1 parking space, and that is all. I'm just asking that question. You've already put a constriction on, you know, that they have to book 25 rooms, that, you know, in order to be able to have an event there, et cetera. I'm just asking, is that another, have you considered that as an option? Because you are, you know, your numbers are going to play into that, so. And I'm not putting you on the spot to answer me, I just think it's a
Yeah.
consideration.
So I think, you know, I think the question is, you don't have to answer this right now, is would you consider updating your contract to limit those that are booking 1 hotel room to be limited to 1 vehicle so that there aren't 2 vehicles coming to the
Oh,
site?
yeah, sure.
Am I understanding you?
correct, sir.
Sure, yeah, yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the clarification.
So are you willing to do that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And
We do that.
yeah, and that's 25%, by the way, not 25 rooms, because.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
if I said, I understood percent, so,
Yeah,
thank you. Which is about 40-some rooms, roughly?
So
Is
we
it
got
162?
162, 25, yeah, rough,
In
give or
that
take.
ballpark?
in the, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have a question about the answer you gave to Maureen. You're going to require them to have 1 car per room. But there's no restriction on bringing more than 1 car for that room.
No,
You're
that's
only
what
going to
we're-
give them 1 space for the room.
I think we just said that they're going to be restricted to 1 in the contract.
Right.
We're willing to amend the
You book
contract.
a room, you get a space.
Correct.
So you book a room, you get a space, and then somebody else comes and stays with you in that room. They also bring their car.
I think we're saying by contract, we're going to prevent that from happening. We're going to say to the person that's reserving that hotel room, everybody that's staying in that hotel room is limited to 1 motor vehicle, period,
On site.
on site.
Okay.
So would you put like a placard in the car window that this, so that if somebody pulls in, like Mr. Crowley's talking about, you wouldn't see a placard, and then you'd have to have that car towed?
Yeah, if you go to the hotel, we've had this for years, and Craig can attest to that. There's there's plenty of signage that address, there's a placard, we have it color-coded.
Yes.
There's green for green section, you go to the main building, blue for the wing building, it's closer for there. So we do have a way to know who's staying, who's registered. It's basically part of the registration process, you get a placard that you
So
hang in the
when-
car.
So when the person comes with a second car, they're on their own to find a spot somewhere?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we have plenty of parking. And the reality is, you know, we still have to have 4 parking spots for the restaurant for the same guest that's staying at the hotel. So it's a double dip. But the reality is everyone comes, if they're coming in from New York or they're coming in from North Jersey or wherever, they're all coming mostly together. And the reality is in the summertime, it's mostly families. The kids aren't bringing their separate cars. They're all coming in 1 vehicle.
Okay.
Can I just discuss a logistic issue with the board? Because they're asking us to do two separate distinct things here. One is they have an approval in hand, and they're asking us to grant an extension. And we have certain criteria for evaluating that. And we're sort of mixing what they're asking for in the second part together with the first part. Would it make sense to deal with the extension first?
Yes.
Yes.
And then talk about, because I view what they're asking as essentially, the modification of the site plan is changing the conditions, and that's, should be a separate consideration.
Yes.
Does that make
I
sense?
agree.
Yes.
So we're getting testimony for both together, and I just want to,
Let's just make sure, you're not going to have any other witnesses on the extension issue, are you?
Just Mrs. Morrissey's going to say
okay, well then,
it's warranted, but I think there's adequate proofs in the record now if you want to proceed with a vote or a discussion on that issue
You're
now.
confident we're allowed to give all 3 one-year extensions at one time? I've considered this before, and I really don't know the rule on it, but it does say 3 one-year extensions.
It does.
Not 1 3-year extension. So
Correct.
I've always thought that it should be, you get to come back 3 times. But I think in the past, we did it once before, and I think we gave more than 1 year, but at the time, I was like, I don't know if that was right.
I have some board attorneys that take that position, and I've had others that have certainly granted all 3 at the same time. I think it's, you can request the extension before the approval lapses, after the approval lapses. It doesn't provide a timing, so I think the board has the authority to do it.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, you understand what I'm asking? It says 3 one-year extensions, so you can make it come back 3 times and give 1 year each time. But also, it's an expense to them and it's an annoyance to us in some ways, right? So you got to decide what you really want to, what you want to do. You can give them 1, 2, or 3.
Can we receive notification at a minimum, rather than having them come back, just be?
No, you got to either.
You-
hear it
okay,
granted
one
or
way,
not hear it.
okay.
So, if you, I mean, I'm not suggesting you do any of the any things. You vote how you want to vote. I'm just saying that I believe you can say, we'll give you 1 year, we'll give you 2 years, we'll give you 3 years. I think you can do any of those 3 things, if it be in your discretion, you think it's appropriate. It may be that in a year or two, whatever factors they are talking about may not be extant, and you might not give the extension that time. So, sometimes you want to bring it back each time, but I leave it up to you. You make whatever motions, have a discussion. Council and I kind of see it the same way. There isn't a real clear rule on it, so I'm going to leave it in your discussion, which you.
Did you say wanted a 4th year, though, too?
So there's one that's the mandatory extension, that if you can demonstrate that you have not received a required governmental approval diligently applied for, you're entitled to that as well. We have been going back and forth with Cape May County on an encroachment agreement, and we think we're at the finish line, but we don't have it in hand yet, so I think there is justification under that provision of the statute as well.
Why don't you meet them halfway? Give them the mandatory 1 and then give them 2 more, and then they have 3. If they
And
want
then
to
I
go
get
back
one
and
more.
forth, they can.
Yeah.
But hopefully they won't need it, because we like to keep when we give out approval, we like to see it done or not done. So
I think that's a
that seems
fair
fair.
and appropriate
All right, so
compromise.
The motion I'd recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you, and how you move is up to you, is a motion to grant a 1-year required extension for the county approval, and then 2 one-year extensions, so a total of 3. So that would be July 2029, I think we said, right? It's July.
Correct.
So if anyone's inclined to make that motion, then maybe that's a motion to make.
that's
So we-
taking it to July 9th, 2029.
Are we going to open to the public, or Craig going to do a report?
So you certainly may, Chairman, but I'm just noting that that aspect of the application does not require public notice. We obviously included it because of the condition provision of it. So that's up to you and
Well,
your
public
counselor.
notice and public comment are slightly different things, so I guess I would, out of prudence, you can open to the public, but for the public's purpose, this is just about whether they're going to extend their approvals. We don't have to do it, although it's very often done. This has nothing to do with whether or not they're going to approve the parking. So if that is what you're upset about, please don't speak now. You'll have another opportunity, okay?
All right, we are going to open it. Go ahead.
Maybe I can add a little more clarity. We're extending the application that permitted them for this use and it's only permitted to be used during the off-season. Okay? The follow-up is for them to ask for the ability to use it all year round. Okay?
the public understand, anybody from the public want to speak on that issue? I think we're pretty clear on what we want to do there, and has nothing to do with what the proposal is to change.
I only want to speak about the prohibition portion.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll close the open public. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Deputy Mayor McDade motioned, Mr. Gorgon seconded? Okay, thank you. Mr. Gorgon?
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Lundholm?
Yes.
Mr. Riggs?
Yes.
Mr. Produces?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about, for Mr. Andy, about the, now that the extension's been voted upon, about the condition request that we've made?
I have a couple questions.
Yes?
The outdoor area at the Pier House, when was that area completed and opened up for your guests and for the public?
It'll be 2 years in this June.
So June of '24.
Correct.
Okay. And if, we need to consider, obviously, a parking variance, and the parking that you have is for your hotel guests, it's for guests that do come and use the restaurant, as well as, and what you're also proposing is for the event center as well. I believe that in the prior hearing, there was testimony about the occupancy of the hotel in the summertime. So is there any change, has there been any change in your occupancy rate? I think that, for instance, I think there's testimony that it was about 95% in the summer, discussion about there being a bell curve essentially as far as the amount of your occupancy, with the summer months being your busier months, and then there being perhaps a 60% or so, 65% occupancy after Labor Day, with it dropping, say, 5% or so in those following weeks or following months. One, I guess, I'd like to have some idea, because for us to consider a variance, need to have some idea as far as whether we're still talking about the same number of folks utilizing as far as with your occupancy. And I want to make sure that we're comparing, if we're looking at what the current circumstances are as far as with what the practices are and your guest traffic at the location.
Sure. In terms of occupancy, is more or less, we've been at this 50-plus years, and the last 10 years, it more or less follows the same in terms of occupancy. The average daily rate, the actual dollar amount per that we charge, that obviously, is different. But in terms of occupancy, it's falling pretty much in the same line as, when we did the studies the prior year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Andy?
I have a question. Why would, this is, I guess, to the board, why would we limit them to be able to only park one car on property if it's not capacity and they can hold more per room?
The minimum requirement by code is one car per room.
Right, but if it's not off-season and they could absorb more of that parking on their property, they're not full, why wouldn't, technically, they can't do that if they agree with it?
I think the question was that they were going to do it as part of the booking for this block of rooms. And since the condition is being open to potentially a June to Labor Day timeframe, it would seem that you're going to be putting an additional burden. So if you're having a contract that stipulates you must book 25% of the room, in my mind, if you're looking for a consideration to open up during the summer when you know you're at a 95% occupancy and you have a demand for event space, that condition should be applied at that time. One could argue that if you don't have that condition after Labor Day, that you would have more flexibility operationally to make that as a discretionary judgment, and they have a placard program that they probably would be able to, do that. But I think as far as the standard is concerned, I'd like to see that language in there, and certainly for any consideration during the season. So that would be
makes
my
sense.
view.
But the rest of the year, if they can absorb some of that off the street.
Absolutely, I think that that's a discretionary thing operationally that, the management team could determine.
And also, when we discussed this the first time 3 years ago, the unique notion that the parking space could have a double use, in-season and off-season, different uses, was something that swayed several members of the board, including me. It was a unique arrangement that we hadn't seen before. And the idea now that we're going to remove that and make it a 12-month condition extends the problem through the high season significantly, I would think, because if you're using that hotel at 95% capacity and you bring in 220 people for a wedding, let's conceivably every week, it's going to be a permanent problem.
Well, let's listen to all the testimony before we reach
Oh, well,
those
all right.
conclusions.
I was-
We still have a traffic expert to speak and a professional planner, so let's do that before we,
Traffic expert says about this, yeah, I would.
yeah, so let's hear what they have to say.
And look, this is our proposal, but we're not hard and fast to it. We appreciate the board's approval the last time, your flexibility in granting the parking variance. If you believe that the 25% threshold isn't appropriate, and maybe it should be 30 or 35% booking in season to obligate an event to book a higher number of hotel rooms to address the parking concerns, Mr. Andy's amenable to having those discussions with the board.
And like I mentioned before, the hotel rooms and the event center go hand in hand. We don't want an outside event conflicting with our in-house guests. They never jive. You have to have both at the same time. You can't have, olive oil and vinegar mix in there. It just doesn't work that way.
And one of the reasons why you would want to have an event at your facility is because you've got hotel rooms on site that people are walking to, they don't have to drive after maybe imbibing at a
Oh,
wedding
100%.
or another special event.
100%.
I have a question. How far in advance do people book weddings or special events like that typically?
Times are changing. After COVID, the window really compressed. Before, you do well in advance in a year. Now, we're getting some, hey, do you have June availability? Do you have July availability?
Okay.
So it's really, it's compressed, but it's still, 6 months to a year out.
So
But
it's a significant amount of time so that you could, or they could, block X number of rooms well in advance.
Correct.
And, you could guarantee that to them then, correct?
Correct.
And I know weddings or events I've been to that are elsewhere, they usually identify, here's the hotel you want to stay at, and,
Yeah.
and people, for the most part, do that.
Yeah, that would be it's standard, and we would follow suit with that, too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it's an extended period of time. So you would know what you've already booked for rooms for vacation versus an event well in advance, or you would not book the vacation times if you knew that you were having an event that's already been booked, like a wedding or something.
Correct,
Right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have another question. So,
Sure.
you had said that 28 employees, you need to have a parking spot for each employee, and I think it's at 28 now. But that was determined when you stipulated that this would be utilized only when not during the peak summer months. So are there going to be more employees working in the summer as opposed to during those off times? I realize you always need to have somebody at the desk. So whether it's a busy time of year, it's October or it's July, you're going to have somebody there. But on the other hand, when you have a full house, aren't you going to have more employees there than what you would have working as far as are you going to have more employees there working during the peak season as opposed to the off-season when you presently have permission to be able to use the event center?
So, and David can attest to the
I
actual.
was going to say, why don't we could let him make that presentation. and
Okay,
discuss.
well, that may be parking, but does he know operationally I would think Mr. Andy would know how many employees he needs to be working there, but if Mr. Shropshire can answer that question, that's fine.
Sure, and yeah, I don't want to.
I just want to know the answer.
Yeah.
So that's all at some point.
What generally happens is when, if you look at a 24-hour period, first 8 hours, you have one employee, that's the overnight person, right? At 8, 9 o'clock, that's when you start having checkouts. You go from full capacity to, 95, I'm saying if it's fully sold out. You start diluting basically 5, 10, 15, it starts ramping up from the time checkout is to about 11 o'clock when we have a hard stop where everyone has to be out. So basically, the whole property is either checked out or in the process of checking out by 11 o'clock, and then that's where the employees typically come in, and that's where you have the highest peak employee count, is when basically all the guests are out. So we have that 28 more or less, and they're different shifts, different roles. Housekeeping comes during that time when they're out, and then they're pretty much done by 3 o'clock when everyone's due to check in. So there's an ebb and flow of when guests are in the room to leaving to checking in. It just so happens when they're out, that's when we have the employees there at peak time.
No, I understand the ebb and flow, just trying to get a sense, are there just going to be, at that peak time, are going to be more people there in August than there would be in October?
In terms of employees? No, I mean, the peak would be in August.
Wait, what?
The peak would be in August.
I think the question is, though, the testimony last time was that your peak number of employees is 28.
Yes.
Any time of the year, any time of the day, the peak it ever gets to is 28. What our member is asking is, now that you're going to do this activity of an event in August, when it would seem you have the most employees, will that peak be more than 28 now, since you're doing the event in August, when otherwise it was being done in September or October?
It would not be, no. That number would not change.
The code requires, it doesn't allow for ebb and flow. It simply requires a number of spots for the peak shift, the largest shift,
But we're not talking about
whether
ebb
it's
and-
January or August.
We're not revisiting the prior approval. The question is a legitimate one. What he's just asking and he's confirming is that now that you're doing both the hotel operations and the events during your peak season, is there any possibility that number of your maximum employees will be more than 28? Testimony under oath is no, and you can judge the credibility of the answer. That's your job. I'm not saying it's not credible. I'm just saying that he's given his answer. Giving it more than once doesn't change the answer. Right? That was your question?
Yes, thank
That was it.
I just want to piggyback on Mr. Gargone's. Let me give you a scenario. It's August. You don't have a booking in the event center. You've booked a lot of rooms. Now somebody comes to you and says, I would like to do a wedding in August. You have the event center available, but you don't have the rooms available for that 25%. How would you handle that?
We wouldn't take them because you would upset all your guests that come in and year out. So there's a conflict when you have an event and the hotel staff, or the hotel guest. If they're not the same group, there's always a friction. And then
Deny the booking then?
you would deny the booking, yeah. And it's pretty industry norm. If you go, every property is different, but I'd be willing to bet most will say, if you do a buyout for the event center, you have to have rooms associated with it. They won't mix and match for that reason, because there is an inherent conflict when you have hotel guests with event.
Any other questions?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Andy. If you want, but you can sit right there. Mr. Shropshire?
No, that's not a bid, but you can.
Okay, I didn't see it, okay.
We can change. All right, Mr. Shropshire, what licenses do you hold in the state of New Jersey?
Professional engineering and professional planner, both in good standing.
And
All right, excuse me, I'm already sure I'm not going to be able to hear that. Thank you so much. There's another microphone. Thank you. We're
My
waiting for-
licensure, professional engineering and
Thank you.
professional planning, both in good standing.
And what field in engineering have you developed an expertise?
Traffic engineering and transportation planning.
And did you actually provide testimony before land use boards throughout the state in that field?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions about his qualifications?
No, we're good.
Okay. And you were here in 2024 when the last site plan application for the project I described in my opening was approved, is that right?
Correct.
And you provided testimony as to the parking variance that was necessitated by the hotel, the restaurant, and the event center operating on the same site, correct?
Correct.
All right. And in that application, you prepared an analysis. It's dated November 30th, 2023. Mr. Hurlis asked me to bring additional copies. I have them here. They're part of the prior submission, correct?
Correct.
All right. First of all, is there a parking variance required as a result of the elimination of the condition that we've been discussing tonight?
Yes,
It changes the nature of the variance, right?
it does, yes.
Okay. How many spaces are literally required under the ordinance, and what is the supply?
So that I would have to look at Mr. Hurlis's review letter. He came up with a total of 277 spaces required,
And our supply is?
182.
Okay. All right, now you can go back to your assessment. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have you jumping around. So you prepared a new assessment. We submitted it with this application. Can you describe to the board what your findings were with respect to the elimination of the condition?
Yes, we relied on the data that we collected in 2023, and I understand the question with regard to what might have transpired, so I'll try to touch on that with regard to the occupancy rates. And we relied on that data. The data was collected on 2 July weekends and 1 August weekend, and we tried to do that comprehensively so we would eliminate any need for questioning about whether or not there was a bad weekend with regard to weather or something like that.
Sir, excuse me, was this in 2025 or
2023.
20? Thank you.
Yeah, this data was 2023, and it was actually put into the November 30th, 2023 original parking assessment we did. The time period in which we collected that data was mid-afternoon on the Friday through late evening, Saturday 7 a.m. all the way through to late evening on Saturday, and then Sunday early morning again through midday. And to try to synthesize what we have in that data, we found that the peak parking time and demand on site happened on Saturday, August 5th, and it was at 5 p.m. And of the 182 parking spaces, the parking demand was 166 parking spaces. The occupancy at the hotel at that time was 96%. So we were a little under full occupancy. There was 16 spaces unoccupied during that peak time on site. And what we did in order to evaluate whether or not this condition could be removed from a parking assessment is we started with the condition of 25% of the rooms being required, and saw if 25% would work in terms of matching that to the event space. And here's what we found. The 25% requirement was just a pure requirement of rooms for 162 rooms. That would be between 40 and 41 rooms that would be required to have a event attendee in that room. With that peak parking demand of 166 spaces, or vehicles in the 182 spaces, if we move that up to 100% occupancy under that same ratio, there would have been 173 parking spaces occupied during that time at 100% occupancy. That leaves us with 9 empty spaces following those same ratios. With 40 to 41 rooms, if they're mandated to be event attendees in those rooms, that would leave, in other words, the demand of spaces that would go away if those were required to be event attendees. The demand that would go away is between 43 and 44 spaces. In other words, if they're required to be event attendees and they're no longer a hotel, it would remove those 43 to 44 spaces using the same ratio that we utilized, the 173 of the 182 spaces. It's or the 162 rooms. That ratio would come out to be 43 to 44 rooms. When we looked at the 43 to 44 rooms with the 9 surplus parking spaces that were part of the survey, considering 100% occupancy, that means the event would have availability on the site for 52 to 53 parking spaces on site. We looked at your city parking requirement for events. The city parking requirement for an event is 1 space per 4 seats. That would include attendees, that would include employees, that would include any parking demand related to the event. Your requirement is 1 space per 4 seats. If we look at 202 seats in the event, and we use that ratio, that's 51 parking spaces that would be required. And we just demonstrated that there's going to be 52 to 53 spaces available if the mandated 25% rooms are occupied by event attendees. And as a result, we concluded that there was sufficient on-site parking to accommodate the 202 space or 202 seats an event if it happens during the summer and it's locked in to have at least 25% of those rooms required to be for event attendees. And that was simply the conclusion of our report.
Let me ask you a question before you go too much further. And go back to the, you just commented a minute ago that there was, the requirement was 1 space for 4 seats. But then you said that included employees.
Correct. In an event center.
The one seat, 1 car for 4 seats at the banquet can include the employees. They're not sitting at the tables.
No, that's what your requirement is for parking.
No, it's 1 for every, but are you saying it includes employees or doesn't include employees?
Your requirement for an event center would be 1 space per 4 seats, and that would include all parking demand associated with the event center.
Your ordinance doesn't have a separate standard for employees, is what Mr. Shropshire is saying.
Yeah, but what about the ordinance that does say that?
We're not aware of
Because
it.
our parking ordinance says in a restaurant,
It's not a restaurant.
so you're saying that 1 space, 1 seat, 1 table, 4 seats includes the employees as well?
We're not saying it. Your ordinance
Your ordinance
says it.
says,
Yeah, okay, well then, okay. Does that include the 28 you mentioned here or no? Is it on top?
I believe the 28 is part of the peak employees.
Can you break down that 28?
I mean, Mr. Shropshire can't. He's not in operations. Mr. Andy can. What do you want to know? Who's doing what?
Yeah.
I think he went over it. He said 1 employee was dedicated.
No,
to-
the 28 is for the busiest time. No, at the busiest time, which will be, if you're running this operation, will be, you're fully booked in the rooms, plus there's a wedding going on. And how many employees are working at that moment? 28?
Do you understand the question, Mr. Andy?
Yes.
Can you answer it?
Yes.
Okay.
Peak time for the employees for the events would be no more than 28.
Yeah, oh, yeah, how many people are working the banquet?
We had that all in the plan, no?
Off the top of my head, I don't know what, but for operationally, you said 28 would be peak at the
I mean,
event space.
yeah.
How many would be working an event?
Not more than 28.
Not
that's
more
for
than
sure.
28?
I mean, you go to a restaurant,
Okay, so
yeah. It's not more than 28. I mean,
so how many people are working in the restaurant?
Well, we're not proposing a restaurant.
No,
No, but
the
the
restaurant's
28
going to be
was for
open.
The operations of the whole
People-
place, I thought. So the restaurant's operating while the event's operating, so I think he's asking, like, there's 15 people in the restaurant, 4 people in the hotel.
Not a
and-
restaurant, the restaurant, the Pier House is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you understand that question? How many employees are there?
I mean, I would have to count, because, well, you're asking for the peak time. You will have more employees during the daytime, which would exceed the 28, which is housekeeping and all that, but you wouldn't have more than 28 during the.
It's 6 o'clock on Friday night, Saturday night, August the 10th. The restaurant's open, you have a banquet going on, and you have every room filled with a guest. How many people are working in the restaurant in that peak moment?
I mean, I would have,
If you don't know, you don't know. But if you could maybe give a range.
you got 6 waiters, 6 staff in the front of the house, 2 hostess, at the back of the house, cooks, you got 4 guys there, busser, dishwasher, so you got probably bartender,
Is that-
you got about 15 or so.
And remember, we're working inside the number 28. Okay.
So, yeah, call it 18, round up for the restaurant at 6 o'clock.
So the restaurant has how many?
We'll round up and say it's 18 for the restaurant.
18 in the restaurant, and at the banquet is
10?
10. Because all,
servers, bartender,
yeah, server, bartender, and everything's pretty much cooked ahead of time. So it just needs to be plated and brought out.
10?
10.
Okay, so how many people at the front desk?
Yeah, no more than 1 or 2.
One. How many people doing room service or
The service is pretty much.
housekeeping?
Housekeeping is done at that point.
No housekeeping?
No housekeeping. So.
That's, okay, all right. Okay.
All right, can I ask a question? I tried to write down those calculations, and I couldn't do it, and I did read it, but here's where I just get a little lost, and I want to make sure I get my notes exactly right. What you testified was that at 100% occupancy, there's 173 spaces occupied, and that leaves 9 empty spaces.
Correct.
25% of the people at the event, how many people are at the event?
202.
So 25% have to get rooms. That means 75% of them don't. They're just there for the event. And those that's 75% park in 9 empty spaces?
Now, again, tied it back to your parking requirement in terms of the number of spaces that would be available for those other attendees. So in other words,
I don't want to talk about the ordinance. You're not testifying as to our ordinance, you're testifying as to parking.
yeah, well,
So we exist in a real world, and the real world is, as I understand your testimony, at the peak time, there's 173 spaces occupied, 9 empty spaces. 25%, if you continue with the rule, 25% of those people that are at the event are also in hotels, so they don't count. That means 75% of the people are potentially parking in that parking lot, and 75% of 200 is 150.5.
correct.
So those 150 people are parking in 9 spaces. That's why when Mr. Davis asked the question of his client, is it your belief that even during the peak, all of the people that are there for this can park on site? His answer was yes. I wanted to make sure that's what he meant to ask, because that ties to this thing that I'm confused about. Your report seemed to also include off-site parking to try to get that to make some sense, but that hasn't come up yet in the testimony. So I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time. I'm just trying to make my notes make sense. And at the moment, as I understand it, 75% of the event are parking in 9 parking spaces if it's all on site.
Is it
What is that?
75% of the attendees, or, because, there could be some presumption that 25% of the room booked, have 2 people occupying it as a minimum, so it's not 75% of the people.
It's 100 people in 9 spaces.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the math was tracking.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
75.
Right,
What's that? I'm sorry.
75.
It's 200 people and 25 rooms, 2 people is 50.
50.
Well, we're saying if there's one room,
Well, it's 40 rooms, so it's actually 80. 25% of the rooms is 40, 41 is what you testified, correct? Okay, so that would be, it could be 80 people out of the 202. So now you're talking 120 people are parking in those spots.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I think the whole
I
idea.
thought your report,
Hold on.
the essence of his report, I thought, was that the combination of the off-site and the on-site make it okay. But if your testimony really is that those 120 people can park in 9 spaces, that's okay. I'm not being critical. I take notes. And my notes presently say that there's 9 empty spaces, and 75%, the other 75% are parking in those 9 spaces. I thought your report went into off-site parking and relied on that to some degree, but maybe I'm mistaken about what I read.
Yeah, we were doing everything we could not to rely on the off-site parking just based on the concerns that were raised before. The reality is, based on our surveys, there is off-site parking available. So, but we're trying not to rely on that. I think the whole issue here is 2 things. One is, as we already mentioned, there could be more than, I know with the latest wedding that I went to, we had 3 people in our room. So that there could be higher occupancy with regard to the event attendees within the room themselves. There could also be off-site activity with regard to somebody staying at an adjoining hotel walking to the venue. So we have a whole lot of issues that go into like a shared parking situation here where, in my opinion, I believe that it will work during the summer based on the conditions. And when we did that 25% threshold, we kind of started there because that was what was in the resolution. However, you've heard some accommodation that might be made by the applicant not to go pretty close to the numbers here. In other words, a higher percentage would give you more room and more comfort with regard to what's going to happen on site.
Can I ask you another question about that peak time you mentioned? Was it August something or other?
August 5th.
Yeah. Were there, how many employees of the hotel were staying or parking in that parking lot?
We didn't, yeah, we don't know.
He just looked at raw, how many stalls, how many vehicles in each stall? That was his survey.
Do your employees park there on the property?
Those that have cars, yes. We have a lot of J1s, we have a lot of, some locals that ride bikes.
Right on your on-site lot?
Correct, yes.
Right.
But not everybody drives.
But not everywhere drives, correct. Yeah.
Where do they park?
If they're bikes, we have bike racks, we have accommodations in town.
Well, where do they park, if they park?
Oh,
With the
on
motor- With the
site.
motor vehicle, I think he means.
On site.
They all park on site? Right.
Did you summarize your report in full? I know we got some questions. I just
I
want to make
did.
sure you said everything you wanted to say.
I did.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Shropshire?
Yes, actually, I don't know if I missed it, but did you address off-site parking? I mean, what is the plan for off-site parking? Is it street parking?
Well, there is street parking, public parking available all around this property. I think since I was last here, some of the metered spaces have been changed to a 7-hour time frame, directly adjacent to where, along Beach, directly adjacent to the hotel, and back on Trenton. But beyond that, there's no restriction whatsoever on Beach as you go north.
Can you put some testimony in the record? My recollection is that you had very favorable testimony about off-street parking. Yeah, we're kind of like leaving that, but your report really had a lot of that in it, and your testimony last time, I thought, was that a lot of these activities we're talking about in terms of the events and the restaurant take place at a time when the parking demand in and around Beach Avenue is reduced because it's
Right.
not beach time.
Yeah, I want Mr. Shropshire to answer
if
the
you
question,
could-
but I think we haven't done that because our obligation is to provide parking on-site for all aspects of the use.
I appreciate that, but maybe it's not as, okay.
So that's why
I'm trying to-
that's why I think we
was
shied
trying to
away
help,
from
but-
that, but talk about the off-site
It's-
parking.
I'm trying
in
to
the-
help because.
It's in the
Regards to
report.
ordinance says, your analysis says that at the peak, there's 9 spaces, and in July and August, and you want to do events at a time when your testimony is there's 9 empty spaces, and you want to have an event with 200 people, and the math is troublesome unless you talk about the fact, I think, that it's at nighttime and there's a bunch of parking around there that is on Beach Avenue, because I have to tell you, the board's going to look at it and say, there's 9 spaces open for 3/4 of your guests, so it doesn't.
Well, in the report, we did quantify exactly what happens on street at that peak time, on Saturday, 5 PM, which was, there was 34 spaces available within the block, on-street parking spaces. And that doesn't go beyond Beach as you head north and away from the property. So, there's obviously convenient parking on-street available in close proximity that we didn't account for. As the time frame continues on beyond 5 o'clock, the on-street parking and the on-site parking actually open up even further. So depending on timing of an event, there could be more parking spaces available. So with regard to like a 5 PM event starting, that would be maybe a little bit unusual. If it was an evening wedding, that would certainly have more parking on-site and more parking on-street available.
Your analysis, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but your analysis seems to assume that public parking becomes commandeered for the purposes of this establishment. And because you included in the calculation of covering your parking requirement. If your parking requirement can't be met on site, and it can't, obviously, you're 100 spaces short, you then take the next step of assuming, well, they can park somewhere on the streets. I mean, is that accurate?
Well, I think we're trying to prove otherwise. However, the practical situation is public parking.
I understand that that's what's going to happen. Your on-site parking cannot accommodate a full load.
That's not Mr. Shropshire's testimony, I don't believe, but
Correct.
you can speak for yourself, Mr. Shropshire.
Yeah, and-
He testified to the contrary, that he believes the parking supply for all the uses that have been approved by this board are adequate in order to accommodate in-season events. Is that an accurate
Correct.
summation
And
of your
the-
testimony?
The other thing that we haven't discussed, but is one of the conclusions of the study, it's very typical for the mixture of uses on the site to not over-demand parking. And it's also very typical for event guests to be arriving in some other mode than an automobile. And trying to account for all of those things in our evaluation, there's a reality with regard to how people will arrive here. That's why I believe your parking ratio, your parking requirement for an event is 1 per 4 seats.
I think that for those that are questioning the parking, I think, it comes with, with this. Right now, it's stipulated that it's going to be, the center is going to be used in the fall, when the hotel is not going to be used at its maximum. So clearly, there's simply more parking spots available at that point in time. Now, you're requesting that it be used when it's the most intense time, when when the hotel is going to be utilized, and probably the most intense time when the restaurant's going to be utilized as well. So I guess, I'm looking at the parking survey that you did, and it was done in 2023. I take it this is what you submitted, this is the latest parking survey that you
Correct.
have. So there is a question in here. But, I'm trying to determine how much I can rely on that data, because it is from 2023. I realize you did the analysis in the peak of the summer. Appreciate that. It was done on the weekend in July and August. But, some factors it doesn't necessarily reflect current conditions. It doesn't reflect how the Pier House is being operated right now, which opened up fully operational in 2024. At the time that this survey was done, there was free parking on beach. And there's no longer free parking on that block of beach, but the next block back, New Jersey, is where there is free parking. So it leads to at least the question as far as whether somebody has an option of parking in a parking spot that is metered, or free parking, which is a residential area, is that impacting those residents in that area? Additionally, parking in general is an issue in Cape May. And, it's, what it doesn't perhaps take into consideration is overall intensity of parking and the availability of parking in that area, and if there's been a change between 2023 and now. A lot of residences are now being used for Airbnb that weren't used in the past. They are increasing the number of on-street parking spots that are being utilized for certain residents, and may cut down on the availability for folks who may be going to other areas, and pushing further parking back into New York Avenue, Maryland Avenue, Idaho Avenue. When you go back in those areas, you can see it, during the summertime. So I think, my question is, and I think is that this analysis obviously does not take into consideration all of those current conditions. Is that correct?
Anything that's happened over the last 2 years. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you talk about how increasing the occupation requirement to 35% would impact your parking analysis?
I haven't done the math on that, but obviously, it's going to open up more spaces, or more sharing of the spaces. I could try to calculate that for you if we
it was thrown out, so I just want to give the board a feel for how that might help and mitigate some of their concerns, so.
We could take at some point, take a break and maybe provide, or I can bring forward Mrs. Morrissey to talk about the variance proofs, and then,
Well, 25% is 40. So,
Yeah, no,
High math.
I want to make sure my math is correct.
okay.
any other questions for Mr. Shropshire? Okay. Mrs. Morrissey? Have a seat. Mrs. Morrissey, you're licensed as a professional planner in New Jersey, correct?
I am.
And you're also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners?
Yes, I am.
And you provide testimony in that discipline throughout other land use boards in the state?
Yes, I do.
Any questions about her qualifications? You were here for the 2023-24 application that we filed, that we've been talking about at length, is that right?
Yes, I was.
And there were certain variances that we requested at that time, and you provided planning testimony in support of those variances, is that right?
Correct.
All right, and you've heard all the testimony from Mr. Andy and Mr. Shropshire that's been presented to the board this evening?
Yes, I have.
All right. First of all, we got a height variance at the last hearing.
Yes, I did.
Is that impacted in any way by eliminating the condition that we're requesting from the board?
No, it does not change that. This condition does not impact the height at all, so that variance would not be altered by this application.
Okay, so the only variance you believe we do require is that for the parking requirements, correct?
Correct.
So, having heard all the testimony presented as a professional planner, do you have an opinion as to whether that C variance is warranted under the circumstances?
Yes, I do. And so the focus of this, the reason for the variances and the reason the board granted the variances in the past, I gave specific positive and negative criteria that related to the entirety of the project, which still is a positive that relates to this in-season type use of the parking. The variance itself now is just from that June 15 to Labor Day timeframe, where there'll be a reduction in available parking because we would want to utilize the banquet or event center facilities at that time. Now, that's a 202-seat event center. When we provided the testimony in the prior application for the site, it related to the overall improvements that were being created, because there are considerable benefits associated to the overall site development. And it ties into the reason we're asking for this additional change to the application, because we want to make sure this application and this event center and these improvements can occur and provide a positive back to the community. The improvements, just as a quick reminder, related into changing and improving the floor plans and aligning the floors in the buildings, creating a more efficient operation, upgrading the quality of stay, providing accessibility to the units, weatherproofing piping, increasing the setback to New Jersey Avenue to 38 feet, reducing the driveways on New Jersey Avenue, the new event center having a 100-foot setback with about 40 feet of landscaping off of New Jersey Avenue. All of those things would continue to be promoted and advanced and occur if we're able to extend the time frame from when the event center is utilized. Now, because we would extend the time frame, there'd be an impact on the parking demand in the summer months. And that is clearly a sensitive concern in the city of Cape May, because you are a seasonal community. But allowing for this to occur creates an overall improved development of this project. And a benefit to the community relating to the improvements to an established commercial facility that provides services to the community, provides what a shore community needs in terms of having a place to not just have events, but a place to stay, a restaurant, places for families to come, parking available on site for these facilities, but now extending that into the summer months. The purposes of zoning that we felt were advanced, and I believe would continue to be advanced under this parking analysis or this amended parking variance, continues to promote that purpose of zoning to provide adequate light, air, and open space. Because, again, all the improvements relate to the overall site development and the improvements that are being made on the property with the improved setbacks, the improved landscaping, the reduced curb cuts and driveways, providing sufficient space in an appropriate location for a variety of uses, recognizing that adding an event center that has year-round use is an appropriate use associated with a hotel because the hotel can provide services to the people that are utilizing the event center. If you're going to have a wedding or an event, you're going to want to stay somewhere. And so by tying that to the room blocking of 25% or 35%, as we've discussed this evening, it improves not just the benefits to the hotel, but also make sure that they are tied together so that the people that are utilizing the event center are utilizing the hotel space. Promoting that desired visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement, allowing for the improvements on this property and the changes that are an enhancement to the community and providing an additional opportunity for events in the community, both in season and year-round, is a benefit to everyone to have a successful business in the community. And also to encourage coordination of various public and private procedures and activities shaping land development with a view of lessening the cost of such development and to the more efficient use of land. Now, this is something that the board is grappling with because it is in season and you do have parking concerns in season. When you look at a C2 variance, you want to look at the overall benefits. Under Pullen v. South Plainfield, you want to look at the entirety of the project, the overall benefits from everything that is occurring on this project and how those benefits offset the potential impacts. We did have a parking analysis done. We had the parking analysis testified to by Mr. Shropshire. And in sum, and he's going to give you the numbers at the 35%, I did do calculations, but I'm going to let him give you the answers in case I didn't calculate the way he would, just in case. But 35% of the rooms is 57 rooms. 25% of the rooms is about 41 rooms. So that's the differential, and he'll give you the parking analysis breakdown. But when you break it down, if you have, at the 25% number, 41 of the rooms occupied, or 40 of the rooms occupied, that's 80 people potentially, but you could have more than 2 people in a room. And while there may be 100 people that are attending the event that are not given specific parking, if you look at your ordinance requirements, if you have the event center space requires 1 space per 4 seats. So if there's 120 people of the 202, I'm using the 25% numbers. If there's 120 people that are not blocking rooms, if you're assuming 2 per room, conservatively, divided by 4, that's a requirement of 30 parking spaces. 30 parking spaces can be handled between the overflow of parking, the surplus parking spaces that we have, the 9 surplus spaces, available parking on street in the area, and taking into consideration that not everyone is coming alone in a vehicle, or they're staying somewhere else in the town at a different hotel, they're utilizing Uber, they're staying at an Airbnb somewhere, renting a building and walking to the facility. Many people who go to events do not come and leave, especially in a shore town. You use that as a reason to have a nice weekend, to have an overnight stay. You're not necessarily just coming and leaving. There will be those that come and leave, but there will be those that come in more than 2 per car, or those that are walking from a nearby hotel. So that net effect, that demand based on your ordinance, is 30 parking spaces. And I think it's reasonable to conclude that if you have an event for 202, that maximizes out at 202 persons, and you have them booking up to 40 rooms, which accommodates about 80 of the people, if not more, that the balance of the people are also, you might have some that are driving in and going home because they're local, but generally speaking, you're going to have people staying. You're going to have people Ubering. You're going to have people sharing car drives with a designated driver. You're not going to have the substantial number of vehicles any more than you do from an impact of being within the shore season. Now, when we look at this and we take this back and understand what I mean in terms of impacts and the balance that you have to do, in the city, this is not something that you don't deal with on an everyday basis, but you have to balance the benefits of having a successful business and what the business area means to providing what the impacts are to the surrounding area. And if you go to your 2019 Master Plan Reexamination Report, it speaks to these challenges and trying to find a good way to ensure that your businesses are successful and ensure that your communities are protected. And that's why we're providing that blocking of rooms to offset those impacts and providing that analysis. Your 2019 re-exam report speaks under the land use element that the city seeks to continue to support its existing commercial uses and expanding its commercial offerings to strengthen its rateable base and commercial amenities. As the city strives to transition from a seasonal community to a year-round destination, Cape May hopes to attract businesses that service both its year-round population and amenity-seeking seasonal population, and visitors with the goal of a robust, stable, and job-producing commercial sector in Cape May. This event center will not only provide a benefit to the business that is at the site, but you have your convention center that it could provide an offset to. It can work in conjunction with other facilities. If there's an event here, other hotel rooms might get booked and have more of a positive economic development to the community and to the business community. The commercial land use goals in your master plan include maintaining Cape May's unique appeal by offering varied activities and services, to encourage the continuation of a variety of types of commercial land uses within the city's existing commercial districts, and to enhance the city's economy and provide employment opportunities by encouraging commercial uses in commercial districts. While there will be a parking impact, because you can't deny that there'll be a parking impact, it's my professional opinion, this site and the way it's designed with the conditions that we're proposing, it can be accommodated and managed in a way that creates a benefit in terms of enhancing an existing business and supporting the community in this area without substantially impairing or impacting the surrounding area or causing a detriment to the public good. While not all spaces will be available on site, you can't not consider how people will utilize the facility and how they will stay and how they will arrive in groups or walk from a different hotel. And if you take that into consideration and the fact that there is off-street parking in the area, whether it's metered parking or free parking, that it's still going to be able to offset the impacts of the parking because the times of the events are in the evening and not during the peak beach hours when the parking in the area is being highly utilized for people on the beach. The events are at night. So that offsets that as well. I know it's a difficult balance when we're looking at this demand and the impact on the community, and it's something that you struggle with, but I hope that you can see that by allowing for this expanded operation with the 25 or 35% restriction of room blockings, that there's adequate parking that can be accommodated in a fashion that allows us to be successful and provide a positive contribution back to the city of Cape May, advance those purposes under the municipal land use law through the overall development that's proposed here without causing a substantial impairment of your zoning ordinance, your master plan, or detriment to the public good.
Thank you, Mrs. Morrissey.
I have a question. Your remarks seem to suggest that the load on the project will be in the evening rather than in the daytime. Would you recommend that we restrict the use of that facility to evening hours so that we don't impact the beach and the public streets?
I find it very
Because if
It's
you don't,
such a
then-
difficult challenge. I understand what you're grappling with, but I find it hard when we want to have, when a business is investing a significant amount into a project that can provide something that is a benefit to the community. Every time we put a restriction on it, it takes away from the ability to provide those benefits. And I can't speak to how, maybe we can get some testimony on operations, but I try to steer away from those types of restrictions because the market's going to control itself. When you have a wedding, it's generally an evening wedding. And maybe there's something more you want to offer to that.
No, I had a second question about your remarks, too. You didn't mention specifically there would be a wedding venue. You talked about conventions or event spaces.
It can be,
Is this going to be, I guess this is an operational question, is this going to be used, let's say, for a trade show or for a meeting of optometrists or lawyers, God forbid, we don't have enough room, there's only 220 spaces, we don't have enough spaces for all the lawyers we have, but is the use of the
I
facility
think that was a shot, Rich.
going to be limited to?
He's worn out that bandwidth.
Would the use of the, just for weddings, or is it going to be that larger, quote-unquote, mini convention hall kind of environment?
It would be events for our guests. So if you're booking with us, it could be for weddings, it could be for, we get different corporate clientele, but they would have to be staying with us. It wouldn't be open to the public.
Well, 25% of them have to be staying with you,
That's the number that we
or 35% of you staying with you. But let's say, for example, something that's happening, I think, in town right now is the gold auction. There's somebody, one of the hotels has booked a buyback of gold and jewelry and things like that. That happens a lot in hotels. That doesn't require anybody to stay there. That requires somebody driving to the facility, bringing their gold, walking in, selling it, and walking out. There's a much more traffic-intensive usage of the facility.
No,
It would not be.
any event is going to require a hotel booking, period.
Right, right.
So whether it's selling gold or somebody says, I do, it's going to be a requirement of the booking that what the approval says right now is that 25% of the attendees must have hotels. Now, that's part of the booking requirement. So that's going to go to whoever's booking the event, and they may occupy all those spaces in the hotel, and that's what's in the contract, that's what's in our policy, and we've submitted that to you. What we've offered today, since we know we're asking for events to take place in the peak season, that's, we're building an event space, a great cost and expense. I'm not, Mr. Andy is, family is, and he wants to see a certain return on that investment, and of course you want to take advantage of June, July, and August in the city of Cape May. It's beautiful here at that time. It's a beautiful time to have a wedding. We think we can accommodate it, and we've said, if you have a concern about it, we're flexible on the percentage of hotel bookings. We can go up to 35%. But whether it's a wedding or whether it's selling gold, that's a requirement.
So we can anticipate events as early as 10 o'clock in the morning?
You can't anticipate it, but it may happen. It's a free country. If you want to book an event,
Then you should anticipate it. If it's a free country, it's going to happen, you should anticipate it.
well, it may happen. I don't know that that's the prime target.
I didn't
to
say
do
it was.
10 a.m.
I didn't
events,
say it was. I said,
but
can we
it could
anticipate
happen.
a fairly regular usage of the facility from noon on, let's say.
We're not stipulating to any hours of operation. I mean, other than what your ordinance may require.
Can I try to summarize this, because we're making it just far too complicated. I mean, just say what it is. 25% is 41 rooms, I think someone testified to. I'm not a math genius, but I think you do a little crisscross thing, it comes to 57 rooms if it's 35%. Right? The engineer's nodding at me, so I did it right. Okay, so that's 57 rooms. So if it's 2 people, then that's 114 of your guests have a room. If it's 3 people, it's, I don't know, 161 or something like that, 171. Okay, so there's some leftover. There's 220 people, sounds like 170 of them might be in rooms, so then there's 30 or 40 or 50 people that have to find spots. Most of the year, there's not gonna be a problem. The report says, during the summertime, there's some peaks, and sometimes there's only 9 spaces, sometimes there's 16 spaces. On those occasions, it might spill over into the parking out in the street somewhere. That's not a crime. It happens sometimes in the best of businesses. Sometimes the parking spills out of their lot. It happens. So you have to think about that. You have to weigh that against the benefits of that Ms. Morrissey just outlined for you at length before and again tonight, of the benefits of having this project. And you have to weigh all that in your mind and then do the balancing that's required under the law and decide if it's worth it. It's not that complicated. That's it. The ordinance is all interesting, but you don't even need to consider the ordinance all that much because you have actual data, actual real-life data. If we go by the ordinance, they should get nothing. They're required to have 277 spaces. They're nowhere near that. We're floating around this 182 number like it means something. That's not the ordinance. The ordinance requires, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, 277 spaces. But you have data, and I just explained the data to you. Okay, so there's times when there's only 9 or 16 spaces that'll accommodate somewhere between 50 and 70 people. Okay, that's what all this talk has just been about. So do your balancing and decide if you think this project is worth that or not. that's my summary of the analysis. But you guys do whatever else you think you need.
I have a question for Mr. Andy. Sure. In your projections, in the summer months, now I'm talking about, what size are you looking at? Did you think first of all, how many do you think you could book in the summertime?
We ideally want to have one, at least one per weekend, for sure.
One per weekend?
Yeah,
All right.
at a minimum,
And how big a?
So that's rough
you're
to say, but
projecting?
your max is 200, but your ideal is 150 to 180 for this size.
Okay.
And we're all going through, we're talking extremes here, but, again, we're not trying to double dip on the count, having, our guests.
Watch the crosstalk, guys. You gotta keep a record.
Could I ask a question of the board? There are a couple other facilities in town that do banquets and events. Are there rules for them not to have it during season as well?
It depends.
I don't think so.
The town is full of anomalies. It depends when you were built. I mean, there's places that have events that have zero parking. I mean,
But I think the question, Marilyn, was currently, are we aware of any other event space in the city that has a restriction for when they can offer events? And I'm not aware of any ones that
That is.
restrict it to not having an event during the summertime.
Any other questions for this witness?
If not, Chairman, that concludes our affirmative proofs.
Okay, you're right, you're right. Sorry about that. Okay, Craig, you're up. Thank you.
Okay. There is no point in me going through this entire review because I can waste all night. I don't care.
Don't go ahead.
But I'm going to stick to the focal point of this discussion tonight and the importance of the parking variance. And just in general, this report is a rehash of the prior approval, shows the waivers that were granted. They would all be conditions of approval should this new approval be granted. So without beating a dead horse like we did last time, that they should all be conditions of approval. Specifically talking about the variances, I agree with Ms. Morrissey. I said it right this time. Usually I say you made me. But anyway, the building height is unimpacted by this proposal. There were two conditions that were affixed to that approval that really relate to the parking variance, and we've talked about them. One is the one that they're asking to be extinguished, which is no events being hosted from June 15th through Labor Day. They would like to be able to use it during peak times. Understood. The other important one, and we talked about it, and I believe there's even been talk about modifying it, and I haven't heard that per se, or specifics as to what's been offered, but condition 21 was stated that the applicant shall create and enforce a formal written policy requiring event participants to book at least a number of rooms equal to 25% of the total number of event participants. The extension that you granted contains that condition, okay? So it was important consideration. It ended up as a condition. All right, now I'm going to talk about the parking. So when we initially, the last time, approved this parking variance, there was a lot more discussion about on-street parking, I think. I seem to remember that. And this is a very specific location within the city where this particular business occupies 3/4 of the block. It also, there were available on-street parkings, particularly in Beach. I can't remember a time where I didn't pull up in front of the hotel or restaurant on Beach Avenue and couldn't find an on-street parking space. So that was an important conversation as part, and it was included in Mr. Shropshire's report. But once again, we have a lot of things at play here. You have multiple uses, the shared parking concept where some of the uses peak at certain times when others don't. You also have the beach parking and the usage of the beach, which typically peaks at a time where the hotel and event center would not peak. So there's a lot of moving parts here with regards to this. And you have to remember that these numbers are estimates. In trying to pick apart Mr. Shropshire's, rationale, I had a hard time doing it. But I understand there were some other elements at play. So the on-street changes to the meters, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Before there was adequate free parking, now you have pay parking. Does that free up meter spaces in that neighborhood? I couldn't drive that find that in the data. I'm unsure about that. I mentioned the shared parking, the peak times, but at the end of the day, they're asking for this variance under the C2 criteria, which is the balancing test. So Ms. Morrissey gave you some positive benefits, indicated, consistency with the master plan, but you have to determine, do those positives outweigh the potential detriments? And are there potential detriments? And I think the potential detriment I think everyone should be worried about is this going to push parking into the adjoining streets where this is located in the C3 district, but the abutting residential properties are located in residential districts, and we've typically heard about those conflicts with regards to other businesses intermixing with the residential uses across the street on New Jersey Avenue, as well as Pittsburgh. So those should be your concerns. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but it's a weigh. You're weighing. So positives versus negatives. You've heard testimony from the applicants. You may hear more testimony or more concerns from the neighbors when we hear from the public, but I think that's what you should be framing as part of your decision.
Do you want to hear the public, or do you want to let these break? Want to let them break? All right, we'll open up to the public now. Anybody within 200 feet of the project like to be heard?
The way it's going to work is when you get up there, I'm going to swear you in, you're going to spell your name, you're going to say your name, spell your last name, and then slowly say your address. Ma'am, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, what is
Push
your
the green
name?
button. Can you push the green button?
I do.
There you go.
My name is Paula Smith. My husband and I, Ted, S-M-I-T-H is my last name. My husband and I, Ted, we own an apartment at the Morningstar Villa at 1307 Beach Avenue, which is right next door to La Mer. And we have owned that for 6 years. We are concerned about the events being held during the summer months. We have 14 apartments at the Morningstar Villa. Many of us have balconies overlooking the hotel and overlooking New Jersey Avenue. Our property goes from Beach Avenue all the way to New Jersey. We have a parking lot on New Jersey Avenue and spots for 14 owners and 7 guests. I wanted to give some perspective about the parking because we actually see what goes on with the parking on a day-to-day basis in the summer. The public starts parking on New Jersey Avenue and surrounding at least 9, 10 in the morning to go to the beach. As a result, there's very little, if any, parking spots available on New Jersey Avenue. We've often had public trying to park in our reserved spots, and we have to enact some kind of policy for towing or whatever. So we're concerned about events being held during the summer, and as we've been discussing here, parking on the street, which I know there was a parking survey done in 2023, but if anyone at all looks at Instagram, they know that Cape May has just exploded as far as a destination. Everyone comes here. It's very difficult to park, and I know the parking has been an issue as far as the board is concerned. I know Mr. Crowley is one of the people that often say that the parking is a big issue in this town. Our other concern is noise. We are concerned, being right next door to the location, the Lemur, that there will be deliveries at different parts of the evening, in the morning, and delivery trucks will be an issue as far as noise. We love our Morningstar Villa. We bought there because it's quiet and it's a beach community, and we feel like having events during the summer months when we want peace and quiet, and why we live there to begin with, that it's going to be impacted. And we just feel it's a negative impact to the surrounding houses on New Jersey Avenue, as well as the Morningstar Villa owners. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so be God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell it, and then give your address.
My name is Teresa Stanton, my last name Stanton. The owner of the Angel of the Sea, I guess I can give you the address of the Angel of the Sea, which is 57 Trenton Avenue. Personally, I live at 5 Linda Lane.
Did you say 57 Trenton Avenue?
It's 5-7 Trenton.
Oh, I got you.
Angel of the Sea.
Okay.
I purchased the Angel of the Sea in 2015 along with my family. I'm the primary shareholder along with my 3 sons. We've owned the property since 2015. And I'm here to strongly protest the change which is being requested here. Now we're going to have weddings from June to Labor Day. I feel very strongly that this is a bait and switch kind of situation. As a neighbor, I really don't get involved. I want to see all my neighbors successful. I was very happy to see all the improvements that Peter Shields made. And I'm very happy that Lanier is a successful venue. However, I'm quite concerned. People have been coming to the Angel of the Sea, some of them for decades, and they come there for quiet enjoyment. And they come there to celebrate very important things in their life. The Angel of the Sea is one of the few bed and breakfasts left in town. Year after year, people get out of the business, they sell to realtors, and they turn themselves into condos. That is not something I want for the Angel of the Sea, and I try very hard to keep our business viable for that very reason. The reason that Lanier is giving that they want to change what they originally requested is because of unforeseen costs. Well, I find that a little difficult to believe because we all know that costs go up year after year. And there's really, you don't need a CPA to tell you that. So I know they want to extend for another 3 years. I'm pretty sure costs are going to rise again in the next 3 years. So expect that. So basically, what I'm concerned about most is that my business will be harmed by keeping this open from June through Labor Day. We are going to have partiers, we're going to have revelers, we're going to have music, we're going to have congestion, we're going to have people circling the blocks, perhaps while my guests are sleeping, looking for parking spaces, looking to party, being happy, being loud, maybe being, a part of the wedding. So, I'm not sure what to expect, and I'm really concerned that this can harm my business. That is the reason I'm here today. So I would say that I was okay with the original plan where there wasn't going to be any partying in the middle of the summertime right next door to my hotel where my guests are sleeping, where we even have quiet hours from 10 on, because a lot of people come, let's face it, for a little romance, but they don't want to be hearing a whole bunch of, partying next door. So, I guess that basically sums it up. So I would also ask this question. They're saying it's not viable if we're not open all year. Well, then why even proceed? I mean, we have plenty of venues in town for a wedding, and I'm not sure how the community is going to be positively impacted if we're having not enough parking, loud, possibly, wedding revelers, and anyway, I think I would like to see the traditional Victorian bed and breakfasts, such as myself, protect protected, and I try very hard to keep my expenses within check so that I can have a profitable business, and I'm afraid that this might interfere with that. This sums it up. Thank you very much.
All right, sir, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Name?
Michael Noel, N-O-E-L, 1303 New Jersey Avenue. And I don't have to tell you, parking is one of the worst problems the city has. And you're all intelligent, intuitive people. And I know intuitively, I can see it. You don't see this parking plan work. Now, I can't see why for allowing the applicant to define what the parking needs are going to be when you have a code that says 277 spaces. And I think that code says, I don't know much about code and law and so on, but I think that code says 277 on-site spaces because it's anticipating the worst outcome. And what is that worst outcome? Well, it's that in the high summer months, the hotel is 100% booked, and the hotel books a 200-person event. Now, I'm going to grant you the luxury of saying that 2 people per car will come to that event. That's 100 vehicles. But it doesn't stop there. You've got entertainment, you've got wait staff, you've got bartenders, you've got wedding planners, and any number of other people that go on to hold that event. So what is that? Like 25? I don't know. Maybe it's 125 now. People, cars looking for a space. And it doesn't stop there because the hotel is in operation. And then the hotel's restaurant in operation. And we need space for the restaurant's waiters and bartenders and kitchen staff and so on and so on. So is that another 129? Now we're up to 150 spaces. Well, where are they going to go? They're going to go out and they're going to flood the neighborhood. They're going to impinge on driveways. They're going to edge on the driveways. They're going to edge on the no parking spaces at the corner of intersections, making it dangerous for an out-of-sight for somebody to pull out. They're going to go to park. You all know that's what's going to happen. Now, I heard the contractual requirement of having the event booked 40 spaces or 40 rooms. So, does that mean that, and I don't know how that works, does that mean that while the hotel is right now booking June, July, August vacations, when they get to 122 rooms booked, are they going to stop taking reservations? That's only a 75% occupancy rate. And in the high season, that hotel isn't going to make it at 75%. So, and we have a standard. It says 277 spaces. Stick to the standard. You know it's going to be needed. You can't concentrate this economic activity in a small space without creating an additional parking problem. So that's an observation and a question. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? And we'll close to the public. Do you guys want to break the meet, or do you want to?
Yeah, could we?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
10 minutes, 10 minutes max.
Microphones off, please.
Aaron, try not to talk too much about the application while you're on break.
20.
Team, please do not discuss the application while we are on break. You are together as a board, and you're not supposed to speak unless you're on the record. And some of your microphones were on, so there you go.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate everybody's time tonight and your sensitivities to important issues in the tourism economy where parking is obviously an issue. I want to address one issue that came up during the public comment, which is noise. I don't know that that person was at the last meeting, but we talked about noise extensively in the 2024 approval process. No outdoor music, no outdoor ceremonies. Everything's going to be contained inside the building, which is going to be a modern, state-of-the-art building. And we stipulated then, and it remains the same, that there won't be any outdoor events. It will all be inside the proposed building. Secondly, in season, I suggested in talking to Mr. Andy, increasing the required hotel count to 35%. He's willing to go to 50%. It's up to the board in terms of what you think the appropriate percentage of room block is. The goal here is to have new quality event space for the city of Cape May, and to have that support, those events support the hotel aspect, so that people can have quality events in the town and in the community. So if in season, we would like to keep it at 25% out of season, but in season, we're willing to go to 50% for a required room booking, which would, we think, alleviate any conception that there would be too much activity for the parking supply that is there. But at the end of the day, we are requesting a variance. That's why boards like this exist, to, under certain circumstances, grant relief from your ordinance requirements when certain proofs are advanced and certain standards are met. And we think we have done that here with the testimony of Mr. Shropshire, Mr. Andy, and principally from a planning perspective through Mrs. Morrissey's testimony. This is a balancing test. That's why you're here. You have, as residents of the community, as elected officials in the community, local knowledge and judgment about your town and where you want to see your town grow in the future. And you have to decide, does it include this particular facility with in season or not? Certain purposes of zoning have been advanced. This type of a use is squarely a goal of yours in your master plan to encourage your tourism economy. But you do have to balance that. You have to balance that against the negative impact to the zone plan. We think it's advanced because of what your master plan has to say, but the public good, the neighborhood. And by agreeing to a heightened hotel booking requirement in season, we think we are mitigating against the negative impacts associated with the grant of the variance in this instance. So formally, we are amending the application to require from June 15 to Labor Day an obligation on any event bookings that 25% of the 50% of the attendees reserve hotel space during the season and maintain it at 25%. We agree to each and every one of the other conditions that were imposed by the board in the approval of 2024. And we thank you again for your time tonight and hope for a favorable result.
Mr. King, may I just ask one follow-up question? So there was just testimony from one of the neighbors with regard to delivery times. Do you have certain stipulations on when you take deliveries? And not knowing enough about your property and the location of driveways and deliveries, can you just maybe briefly describe, does this space in any way?
Yeah, our deliveries, I don't know what, I'm sensitive to neighbors.
Sure.
There's any issues.
Right.
I welcome any, feedback, but all our deliveries come from Pittsburgh Avenue.
That's what I
and,
thought.
Yeah, the exit from New Jersey Avenue, well far. So I don't know what that.
Okay, all right,
If there's
fair.
noise, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I wanted that clarification.
Sure.
I thought that was important. Okay, thank you.
And even after tonight, there's an open line of communication to any of your neighbors to address any issues that may arise in the future.
Yes.
I have a quick question. The 50% of rooms, is that based on the attendance at the wedding? Or if you hold a wedding there, you need to rent half the rooms in the motel?
That would be the intent. Yeah, you would have 50% of let's say if there's 100 folks attending, 50% of that would have to be.
Would have to stay at the motel or would have to rent a room?
Have to stay at the motel.
Okay.
I was. Oh.
I'm not being critical
you would roughly do 50% of, or I'm sorry, 50% of the folks that, of the 162, correct? So you would do half of that, so 81.
Yeah, me too. That's my question. Do 50% of the people, or do 101 people need to stay at the motel? Or do 101 people need to book rooms? Or you have to book half the rooms in the motel? If only 100 people at the wedding, there's no parking issue because everybody's got a spot.
Right, our intention really is, it's, you know, we want to accommodate everyone from the hotel. We want everyone to stay at the hotel. That's going to be at the event center. We have no interest in anyone outside.
Let me read what Mr. King wrote in the resolution that you've already approved, okay? This is condition-
Which resolution do you have there, so I know?
July 9, 2024, :1 resolution.
Thank you.
And it's comment, it's on page 11, it's condition number 21. Applicant shall create and enforce a formal written policy requiring event participants to book at least the number of rooms equal to 25% of the number of event participants. So as I understand that, if it's 100 event participants, attendees, it's a 25-room hotel booking requirement. And what we're, in off-season, well, that currently, because that's the other restriction. What we're suggesting is that in season only, June 15 to Labor Day, that 25% be replaced with 50%.
Want to make sure I understand it,
Yep.
because it matters.
It's a good question.
Can I get my math right on this? So if it's a 100-person event
Yep.
and it's 25%, that would be 12.5 rooms because there's 2 people in a room, or am I wrong?
It's not what that's not the way the condition is worded.
I
And
just
that's
want to make
not what
sure
my
that,
understanding is.
so it's got to be 25%.
Correct.
Okay. Not individuals, but 25%, okay. How many rooms for 100 people? How many rooms?
Is that what you understand, Mr. Andy?
Yes,
In season.
in season.
How many rooms for 100 people?
How many?
What's the math? 100 people, what's the math at 25%? How many rooms?
Like, practically, you mean? Like,
Yeah.
What do you,
What's
what
the
does he
number?
normally see? Yeah.
Where people are getting a little confused is, we're talking number of rooms
Yep.
versus
It's number of
occupants,
people.
and then the number of people. So if you have a 25% condition that says every event requires 25% of the rooms to be booked, is it the number of total rooms at your property? Or is it 25% of the people who will be attending the event? When you book an event, your contract will stipulate, this is an event for 100 people. 25% of that.
Would be 12 and a half
or
rooms.
25 rooms. Let's just use rooms because occupancy can vary. So 25 rooms versus 25% of your full occupancy, your full room complement is 162. Is it 25% of 162? Is there 25% of the number of attendees to the event? That is a huge distinction.
We wrote this down 3 years ago.
I think everyone's confused.
And what it says, number 21, this is what we passed, this is what it was. Applicant shall create and enforce a formal written policy requiring event participants to book at least the number of rooms equal to 25% of the number of event participants. So if they have
And that's what it says in your
That's
policy.
what it says.
Method action 202,
Yep.
Yep.
then
Correct.
they hold 50 rooms.
So all the math from earlier was not the same as that. It was all based on the 162, because I was very confused.
That's why,
So my question is, has nothing to do with that 2 people are considered occupying one room?
Right, that is.
Okay,
right.
just want to clarify that. Okay.
And in the event guest room policy, this is your document, it says a minimum of 25% of the total number of guests attending the
That's
event.
it. It's get, that's.
It's the guest.
Yeah, it's-
so what is the formula for how many people to a room?
The formula, I mean,
Like they say 4 people in a dining room to a parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
What is it for
Well, it says occupancy is based on 2 guests, according to their
Okay.
contract document
Okay.
that I'm looking at. This is your document.
2 at a minimum, but generally speaking,
Yeah,
our
3 or
rooms
4,
could go up to, 3, 4. yeah.
50% is going to be a challenge for you to achieve. I mean, if you have 25% is doable. So if there's 100 people, booking 25 rooms for 100 people, that is reasonably doable, okay? But if you have 100 people and you have to book 50 rooms, that means if there's a family of 4, by definition, you almost can't do it. So
No.
a person that books a room by themselves.
That also solves your parking problem.
Right. It is. I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to be hard.
No, 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 you want to make sure we understand the imposition of the condition.
100 people attending an event, they have to book 50 rooms. That
Mm-hmm.
means you have to, every person, if it's a couple, if it's 2 people rooms, every one of them has to book a room. Every attendee is.
50 rooms.
That was part of my point, that it's got to be based on individuals, not on rooms.
50% of the occupants of the wedding have to stay at the motel. That's different than 50 people renting rooms.
I mean, look, I think it is simple.
The person who's booking the event has to guarantee 50 rooms.
Correct. That is right.
But that's,
We're confident we won't have to eat
Well,
it, but that is the
That
risk.
narrows that parking requirement way down then.
That's just,
Yeah.
it does solve your parking problem.
And it's the condition, it's only during the season, and off-season, then it goes back to
To
the
25.
25%.
Yes.
Okay.
And by the way, if we can't find somebody to book a 100-person event and 50 hotel rooms, then the business is not going to come in the door. We're just not going to, that's not going to be a booked event, but we understand that that's the requirement, 50% of event attendees. Same
My-
language you wrote and approved 2 years ago, carry it forward, but in season, change it to 50%. That's what we're asking for.
Can I comment on this? I just think that 50% is too much. It's too much. It's almost impossible for them to do this. I could see 30%, 35%, but 50%, that's 100 people. If you have 50% is going to be 50 rooms, right? That's 100 people. That's everyone attending the event.
Unless
It makes no sense.
the person who's renting the facility is going to eat some of that. Simple as that. They really want to have the wedding or whatever the event is in Cape May, they're going to do it, and they're going to pay people, they're going to pay out of their own pocket to have it there. That's what they're saying, I think, correct?
Yes.
Look, in many ways, this.
I can see a 30, 35%. I don't understand the 50%, but what it is what it is.
The wording is.
At the end of the
wording's
day,
critical.
this is a board decision. We heard from members of the public, we heard from some members of the board. We're trying to strike an appropriate compromise to allow this event facility to be built and also accommodate any concerns you may have about parking.
Okay.
We're trying to be generous and increase it to 50%. If the board feels as if that's too much, it's your decision.
I also agree. I think 50% is too onerous. I really do. And I was actually okay with 25%, but 30% maybe, or something like that. But I think 50% is too onerous because
I just believe we're putting too much on them at 50%.
We have a suggestion at 40.
There's a suggestion by the solicitor that it's at 40%.
The applicant suggested 50%. You feel you can live with 50%?
I will amend the application to 40% in light of what I'm hearing from board members.
Oh, yeah, but here's the risk you're running. These gentlemen don't like that. You're going to make a motion at 50%. They're going to vote no. Then they're going to make a motion at 40% or 25%. You're going to vote no, and we're all going to be sitting there looking at each other. So create a consensus. I mean, obviously, operationally, it's very hard. Most of the people are going to be 2 people, it's usually couples, and you're going to have every one of them say yes. At 40%, you might have one that says no, you might have another one that's a single, and one that's four people, and it might work out. So I think everyone, there's no point in doing it for the business to not work, but so.
I think a 10% increase would be viable to both the business person and the community. at 35%. I can't see 50%, maybe
Yeah, I'd go along with 35% also.
35%.
Anyone else?
All right, here's how it works. Listen, here's how it works. You make a motion, and then you vote on it, and then you make another motion, and you vote on it. So if someone wants to make a motion at 35%, see if it carries. If it doesn't, then do it at 40%.
40% is 80 rooms.
That's 50% of the rooms that are available at the property.
That's a lot.
Well, if you're attending a destination wedding, it's really, quite frankly, not.
No?
I'm going to, on personal experience, no. Have a niece, a nephew
Well-
getting married next year in the Chesapeake. Everybody's booking, the block of rooms because.
Well, I just think realistically, Maureen, I mean, Lemaire's a high-scale, very high-brand resort, and maybe some people just can't afford their prices and may have to stay at other hotels during the season. Off-season, yeah, you'll give a room away for $150, $200 to fill it up, but in season, you're going to be paying $350, $400, $500. What's an in-season room at Lemaire?
Rate-wise, $650, average.
You're going to ask a young couple 2 nights to spend $1,200 instead of staying somewhere else because they got to fill
You're
50%.
going to be staying many places in Cape May unless you're hitting in the $400 to $450 range, for accommodations.
I think we're getting
I
involved
think
in
we
the
are getting sort of.
construction of a business plan for the applicant.
The applicant offered 50. Some of your board members like 35. Why is 40 a hard thing? I mean, the applicant
I
said
think
50.
40 is a very appropriate compromise, given everybody's commentary and discussion.
I'll make a motion at 40.
Second. I'm sorry, second.
Riggs.
Mr. Riggs motioned. Are there any conditions? Just the conditions in the memo?
The application, the motion I recommend be phrased is a motion to grant, hold on one second, I'd like to look at Craig's report when I do this. Amended. I'll do it, hold on, just get your report. The motion is for amended site plan preliminary and final modification of condition and a C, I don't see C1, C2 variance with the condition that the applicant will require in the booking contract that for every 100 people, well, let me rephrase that, 40% of the number of people, there must be a room booked. So it's for
Of
100
attending need.
people, there would need to be 40 rooms booked. For 200 people, there would need to be 80 rooms booked. It's 40%, the number of people have to have that number of rooms booked, as well as the other conditions outlined by the board engineer in his report. I just want to see if there's another condition. Oh, we did the extension, okay. And that's the motion I'd recommend that be made. I think that motion has been made and has been seconded.
Yes.
So now we call Ms. Keenan.
Okay, may I ask who seconded, please? Is that Mr. Lundholm?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have it right. Mr. Gorgon?
Yes.
Councilmember Bodnar?
Just want to comment, I just want to thank council for the presentation, as well as the concession. I believe it's a very meaningful concession. Also, the fact that where you're located, on the edge of the hotel district, right on a residential, and with the residential district being there as well, it really requires you to be good neighbors as a commercial entity and a large commercial entity. To me, this is the type of a demonstration of being that type of good commercial neighbor. So I vote yes.
Deputy Mayor McDade?
I also vote yes, and I would like to say thank you. I think it's important that there's an understanding and appreciation of the concession that you made. This is, you're trying to make a viable, opportunity for your business, so I appreciate that. I hope that the neighbors take you up on your offer, so if there are issues or problems between now and when the event space is developed, reach out, have a conversation with Mr. Andy. He seems to be very open to, hearing from you. But I think that, we only have a couple of other event spaces like this in the city, and I think it's important that, we're able to offer this. So best luck on the development of the property and the site.
Thank you.
Mrs. Reed?
I just want to be clear, we're voting on the granting of everything.
Well, we already did the extension, right now we're granting the variance.
I'm going to vote yes, and I understand that the community is going to be impacted, but I think you do very nice projects. I've been to your facility, I've spoken with you there. I think you are going to be a good neighbor. I'm going to watch.
Thank you.
Mis- Mr. Crowley?
Just a few comments. The last time this applicant was before us, they proposed a novel method for addressing the impact on parking. I voted for that, and it was a reasonable attempt to strike a balance between the needs of the applicant and the needs of the community, as we all suggest we have to do a balancing act. The planner that testified earlier emphasized that there was a balance in favor of the applicant and cited the master plan as a reason for a lot of that balance. She didn't, and I'm sure she didn't want to, or didn't need to, but the master plan also calls into clear focus the fact that Cape May is literally strangling with parking. This committee, several months ago, put together a subcommittee to look at the issue of parking, made a recommendation unanimously to the city council that the city council begin to seriously study the issue of parking and how it impacts the town, and if there is such an impact, what we can do about it in reasonable terms in the near future. The council hasn't acted on that yet, but we're hoping they do as soon as possible. That's the context in which we need to consider this application. There is a serious parking problem in this city, and every time a board like this agrees to waive any consideration of the impact of that parking, makes the problem worse. And as we get popular, it's going to be even worse. So we need to consider that this kind of an application is really contributing not to the solution, but to the problem. And in that context, I would vote seriously against this for that reason, except for the fact that the applicant has made a good faith attempt to ameliorate some of that impact. And I think this proposal, 50% would have been better. And if 50% fit his business plan, then that's on him. 40% is still good because it does reduce the impact of parking, and parking is going to impact that neighborhood significantly every weekend of the summer because that's what they want to do. They want to have a wedding there every weekend. It's going to be a big impact. It's going to be lessened by the fact that they're going to require 40% of their attendees to book a room with them. So in that context, it's a reasonable compromise. I still would like to urge this council, this committee, to think seriously every time an applicant comes before us that with a proposal that makes the already unbearable problem even more unbearable. The longer we avoid it, the worse it gets. And we either have to have the council do something about it, or the council has to say, once and for all, let's get rid of these parking requirements. Parking's not an issue anymore. It is until they get rid of it. So in that context, I'm going to vote for this because the applicant has made the effort to come to the middle of the table, and I appreciate that. But this problem is not going to go away. It's going to happen next time we get an application.
Is that a yes vote? Is that a yes vote?
Well, I'm getting to that. Yes. So ultimately, there will be a yes vote for me, and I'm giving it right now, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lundholm?
I vote yes. I appreciate your compromise to work with it, everybody here involved.
That's it?
That's it. You said it all.
Mr. Riggs?
Voting yes. I really appreciate the applicant's presentation, appreciate obviously working with this board and understanding what the limitations are within the neighborhood, so I'm a yes.
Mr. Paducis?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on Dennis's remarks. In that area, There is no other business besides Lemaire, a bed and breakfast, maybe the Pier House is closed. If you go during the day, during the summer months, it's beach people. People going to the beach. One reason they go down there is because, except for Beach Avenue, there's no meter parking. I can park there all day on New Jersey Avenue or any of the side streets and stay there all day. But starting around 4 o'clock, there's a transition. People are leaving the beach, and I've gone to the Beer House many times, Lemaire, and if you go there during the evening, there's abundant parking available. We do have a parking problem in this city, and I do charge the council to either, let's get rid of it, discuss it, or whatever, table it for future meetings such as this. But great presentation, and my vote is yes.
Mr. Jones?
I'm also going to vote yes. I do appreciate the compromise, but this is a good project for the city overall, and I agree with that.
We thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing this project built. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
All right, we have a few more things to discuss here. Number one, payment of bills, please.
I'll second.
Listen,
All in favor to pay the bills? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
people, we have, in May, the city has this open forum, which involves all the boards and a planning board also. We're probably going to have it manned. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, maybe combine it with the zoning, not sure. But we'll have a meeting before then. I think we think about how we're going to address that, okay? It's pretty important. I think it's a great idea. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.